Hi, I'm Casey Tree. 35 years ago, I was an addict with no hope and no future. It was then that I realized a simple truth that changed my life forever. The truth is, you can change. Whatever the circumstance, you can make choices that change your life forever. Join me on this journey of change as we examine living in our world and finding out what it means to truly be successful.
Thanks for being part of our program today. We're really praying that you'll hear something from God that's going to add to your life. Casey Tree here from Christian Faith up in Seattle, and we're happy to be a part of the Hillsong Network going out throughout our world. You know, you can always connect with us at caseytree.com and see all of our messages and the things that we're sharing to help lift and heal and move people forward in life. One thing about everything that we do is to help you in that next step, help you to move forward with what God has planned for you. And I really believe God has more for you than you may know. So get ready and go for it and believe for it and reach for it. And today's message is going to help you in that process. I'm praying you hear just what you need.
You know, we all walk into church with all different stories. We all come in here, and at some point, hopefully, we say, Jesus, be my Lord and Savior. And we start this amazing pathway of learning what it is to be a Christian and to live this amazing Christian life. But we all walk in with our story. We all walk in with our story, meaning our past, meaning the things that have created us of who we are today. And some of us come in with kind of a nice story. I mean, like, you know, my story is, I had a, my mom and my dad were just, pretty nice people. And my dad was, I call him the geek, because my dad realistically, he was like, for some of y'all, you would have met my dad and go, does he know what a football is? Does he like basketball? Does he understand what, he was not a Mr. Sports guy at all. He was, he loved history, but he was kind of just geeky in his ways. And I see that in the most loving, conversation, because that was just my dad. But he was very, he was kind of just a nice guy, But many of you come in with the story that, your family had a lot of different challenges and fighting and no real sense of God's purpose in their life. Casey grew up and he never went to church. There was never any church part of being in his history. His parents, kind of lived cowboy life and had their own challenges. His grandpa, who they lived right next to each other, was an alcoholic that caused a lot of different challenges that, rippled through all the different family and their effect and what happened in that. So your mom, what you saw was pretty disruptive and pretty challenging at times. And so when we're talking about fathering and even being a man in the world today, we really get, or we've really had, tried to have a really big heart of understanding of we walk in with story, we walk in with our histories, and some of it has good and some of it has some challenge to it. But the most amazing thing about being a Christian is that God gives us answers in the Bible of how to have something better or more than what we had, to become something different than what was modeled to us, and have something that can be very victorious. And I think that I just so honor the fact that you didn't come from a perfect story. You came from a lot of challenge, a lot of different confusion, a lot of different marriages that were all around you. Because I think between the total of your mom and your uncles and your dad's marriages, I think they equal about 30, maybe exaggerating, but about 30. There was a lot of different stuff in your past, and yet you have fought to understand God's way. And so to me, you are the best person, from my perspective, to talk about how can a father lead a family into godliness, because, oh my gosh, I've watched you. I've got to live with you, bud.
You've often said you knew your dad loved you. And I think that's really the big deal, and it has to be the big deal. In all of our shortcomings and all of our weaknesses and all of our failures, we can let our kids know we love them. And if we communicate that and say the words, I love you, I care about you, I'll be there for you. You may not know what else to do, but you can say that and you can show that. And As you said, Wendy, your dad had some issues, but you knew he loved you.
Right.
So nothing else really mattered. And the Bible said love covers a multitude of sin, right? So if we communicate love, that will help us overcome everything else. How many had a conversation with their father and you asked this question like I did? Why are you leaving? Why are you and mom getting divorced? I remember that conversation. That's a scary thing for a child. And we say, well, kids are resilient and kids get over it. It took me a long time to get over it and understand why mom and dad separated and were divorced. And then going to dad's marriage to a new person and mom's marriage to a new person, that's hard for kids. And many of us have been through it, right? Many of us have been there. And so we don't look back and find blame or find reasons to fail. We look up to our Father. We say, thank you, God. You are our Father in heaven.
It's good.
Right?
Yes.
And we look forward because we know our steps are ordered of God. And God has a plan for our life, a purpose for our life. And nothing in our past can stop what God has for our future.
Yes.
So let's not look back. Let's look up and keep looking forward.
Right. That is so good. And it's so important that we really recognize, man, we all come from different stories. And so don't let your story of your past identify you. Like sit there and just say, well, you know, I feel guilty, I feel bad. But that's also, you told a part of the story that I would like to maybe highlight is that maybe you're the parent that got the divorce. And so when you say that, say, yeah, man, I failed and I damaged my children. You know, you go down that pathway forever if you want to. You can feel guilty about your imperfections forever, or why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, you can move forward. Guilt is a trap, isn't it? Sometimes we tell ourselves, I feel guilty because I realize what I did wrong and I know I should have done something else. But we kind of embrace guilt and make it okay. But really, guilt is a trap.
Yep.
Guilt will never help you get better. Guilt will never move you into your blessed future. In fact, guilt will lock you into your past. So let's not allow guilt to control our lives or be a part of our lives. Now, sometimes you feel like, well, if I don't feel guilty, then I'm acting like I don't care what happened. You know what? In a sense, you care more about your future than you do about your past.
Right.
So because I do care, I'm not going to let guilt control me.
Right.
I'm not going to stay in my past. I'm going to believe my Father in heaven has a wonderful plan for my future.
Yes. That is so good. It's so important to not to let the devil take you on that pinwheel, that wheel that just spins you around where all you think about is, I failed. He loves to keep all of us there and to keep us in this place of, you have failed, so just that's all you think about. You know what? That's what forgiveness is about. That's what the forgiveness of God is about.
Right.
Yes, all of us. But actually, you wrote, this was one of your first points that you and I talked about you sharing about how do you live above, is number one, you put down, you don't have to be perfect.
Yeah, perfection is another one of those traps, right? For instance, if I'm not very good at praying, well, I'm not going to pray at all. If I don't really understand the Bible, I'm not going to read it at all. And sometimes we just get into a cycle where if I can't do it perfect or good enough, then I'm going to avoid it altogether. And so perfection is really a trap also. And fathers, you don't have to be perfect. If you love your kids, you are a great dad.
Right.
If you're there for them, you're a great dad. And that's what counts. And don't let what you feel is a weakness or what you think you're not good at, hey, don't worry about that. They won't worry about that. They're not concerned about that. Don't you be concerned about that.
Wow, that is so important. You gave me this really important, I feel like a conversation that you put down a list of things that you said, these are important. And number two, you wrote down, initiate, don't control.
You know, I think sometimes men, we like to be in control, right? We want to feel like we're strong, we're domineering, we're being macho or something. And so control is oftentimes actually a problem. When you control a conversation, you never really hear what your spouse is saying or what your kids are saying. When you control a situation, you never really know what the people around you are thinking or feeling. When you control spiritual time with your family, probably not a lot of spirituality going on there. I remember a story of a person who came to us for counseling once, and he was so frustrated because his family hated what he called family altar. Anybody ever had family altar in their past days? Well, back in the day, it was gathering together, reading the Bible, praying. But Dad was so controlling that he would read from the old King James Bible, and he would kind of give his little sermon, but he wasn't very good, and the kids would all be falling asleep. And then he would pray for everybody. Kids would be sitting there, you know, just their only prayer was, please, Lord, let it be over. Yeah. So the dad came because he was upset that they weren't enjoying his spiritual time. And I said, Dad, start it, but don't control it. Yeah. Initiate. Ask the kids, what would you like to talk about from the Bible? Or what would you like to pray about? Ask your wife, what have you been thinking about in your Bible reading? Let's talk together. We start the conversation, but we don't control the conversation. And I think that's good in every part of family life, dads. Right. You don't have to be in control. You don't have to dominate. You just have to get the ball rolling in the right direction and let the family be a part of it.
You know, to continue on right down this pathway, you put down, the next one you wrote down was right here, it says share and listen. And I think when you're talking about initiate, don't control, but also share and listen. I love, and I think so too often men are kind of like, you know, you're supposed to be in charge, and you're supposed to know everything, and you're supposed to have all wisdom, and you're supposed to, you know, kind of that old view in a way of how a man is supposed to act. But to have these two lines together, initiate, don't control, but then to share and to listen. Now that's a whole different realm. Share how you've done that. What do you mean?
Yeah, well, I'm not a very good listener because I like to tell everybody what to do. You can imagine Wendy and me at home together. She preaches for the first hour, and then I preach for the next hour. But really, both of us could just preach to each other all the time, and that we would be happy doing that. But I've had to stop, and I had to say, okay, wait, what am I hearing here? And especially with the kids, if you'll listen long enough, your kids will usually tell you what's going on. Yeah. Sometimes we interrupt them and stop them from telling us what's going on in their life. In fact, let's let them talk and let them share. The other thing, sometimes men, we want to act like we have an answer for every situation. There's no way we can have that answer. There's no way that we can know everything. And our wife knows we don't know everything. So when you act like you know, then you look doubly foolish. She knows you don't know. That's right. And it doesn't take long for the kids to know that no one knows everything, right? By the time they're 3, they probably operate their computer better than you do. So we quickly need to say, I don't know, but let's talk about it. Let's study together. Let's go online. Let's find out. Or build friendships with guys and other families that will speak into your life. Many of you think of a life group at church as something that church does. Life group is about family. Life groups are about you having relationships. Maybe somebody in the group has teenagers and your kids are 12, just becoming teenagers. You have someone to call and say, hey, what happened when your teenager went through this? How'd you guys manage it when that happened at school? You know, you don't have to know. You just have to know somebody who does know. That's right. And if you have those relationships, and if you'll listen and share, yeah, you can do life together and you'll be better.
You know, one of the things that I found in this initiate and in sharing and listening, we were talking about is that You know, our society and us, we have created a pace that most of us really demand of ourselves to keep a pace, at least to tell people, like they'll go, oh, how's your life going? I'm really busy.
I'm so
you know,
busy.
what have you been doing? I'm just so busy. I mean, that's our first conversation.
We're
with
kind of
people.
proud
Yeah,
that
we're
we're
kind of
busy.
proud.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're so busy. I've had people all of my life tell me, oh, I know you're really busy. And I have consistently said to them, no, I'm really not. And they'll go, no, I really know you're really busy. And I say, no, I'm really not. Why? Because I've refused to have people, in a sense, tell me what I am instead of me telling my time calendar what I choose to do in it. I am not too busy, even though we all feel the same pressure of there's so many things, you know, like just driving takes more time around now. I mean, the distance of drive, it takes more time in your car. If you want to go out, going grocery shopping, 2 people working, there's a lot of things on schedule. And I know that. I mean, we all live, many of us live, that's a hot, you know, there's a lot of things on schedule. But I would really encourage all of us as believers that we take that control of our time more. We demand a certain thing about ourselves in our time schedule, that we learn better how to say no and how to say yes. We learn how to say no to the things that really are time stealers, and we learn how to say yes to the things that add value to our life. And I would say, like, in adding value in this sharing and talking, is that sometimes you have to realize you just have to slow your pace. You have to demand, like, you know, like we run to a fast food restaurant and we let them throw our food through the window and then we drive to the next event. Mm-hmm. Now, that can work a little bit. That can happen in your schedule a little bit. But if you live that schedule every single day and just that picture of always moving like that, your sharing and your initiating conversations is going to be extremely limited and very shallow. So you have to decide, what am I going to kind of say no to so that my life schedule slightly slows down? I mean, we need to have dinner together where we're not in a race, we're not in a hurry, where we're just kind of like having dinner, and it could be hot dogs, who cares? But you have hot dogs for dinner, and then you sit back and you have space of time. Space of time creates conversation.
Sure.
Space of time just creates not just serious conversation, but silly conversations and funny conversations and life conversations and just knowing each other conversations. Those are all important in life, you know? And even the fact of sharing in time, I said, sometimes people, we have our night schedules, we have our favorite TV shows that we all wanna watch, and we just have to watch it, and so it's bedtime, but it's don't just a minute, I need to watch another half an hour, another hour, 2 hours. And we allow things to steal from our time that we should have said maybe, I'm just not gonna watch it at all. I'm just gonna cut that part out for now in the season that I'm in right now. Why? Because it's more important that I go just lay on my kid's bed, you know, for 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes could go by where you initiated the conversation and you have the time to share.
Yeah, I've enjoyed watching Caleb and Krista parenting their daughters. That's part of the joy of being a grandparent, right? You get to watch your kids suffer through parenting. But they are amazing, and both of them just make time, right? They're hanging with the kids. They're just chilling out. They're just relaxing. They're just being together. Krista flies with Alaska Airlines, and often Caleb is just there having time. He doesn't have to plan something. He's good at just laying on the living room floor and wrestling with the girls, or when they go to bed, taking an hour to put them to. Sometimes mom's like, come on, let's go to sleep now. But all that time is valuable, isn't it? Because that's when we get to know each other. That's when we hear what's really going on in their life. That's when they'll ask the question. That's really important that we talk about. So, yeah, quality usually comes at the end of quantity. Yeah. Right? We all want quality time, but quality is usually the result of quantity.
Yeah. That's so good. You know, the next thing is kind of like, it's interesting, your line. You said, you don't have to be perfect, initiate, don't control, share and listen, and then you wrote down, be there.
Yeah, sometimes just being there is really all you have to do, right? Just be there, just show up.
Be at the game. You know, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to correct the umpire. You don't have to yell at the refs. I'm speaking to myself now. It's
All
so
you dads
hard.
in the house, how many of you have yelled
So
at
hard to go to your
umpires?
kids' games and not have to deal with crazy refs. Okay, I repent. But just being there was really the most important thing, wasn't it? You know, one time a friend went through a tragedy, the worst tragedy, and I didn't know what to say, but I just sat with them for hours. And I often think about that. I didn't have words, but I had my presence. And sometimes your presence is your best gift. Maybe your greatest gift is your presence. And maybe you wish you had more to say, you wish you could do more, but the best thing you can do is be there and be faithful. Right. And yeah, that will go a long ways.
You know, boy, you just touched a little bit on something that I just kind of want to jump from is my dad, I don't know, I wouldn't call him giving me always great wisdom. I didn't ask him a lot of questions. Again, it goes back to that be you, that you as a man, you as a father, you as a husband, you as a friend, I mean, just the manly of who you are. It's like, you just to be you, be Christ in you, be that kind, that generous, that strong, that silent strength that is so very, very important that sometimes we so devalue it. And it's all about someone, if I just could give them more. And I'm like, there's a whole bunch of rich people that have kids that are just absolutely, just horribly sad because they didn't have a dad. They go, and the dad goes, I gave you all of this. And it's kind of like, so what? The stuff is not the value of you as a dad. You are. And so you always have to remember your presence and who you are. And then you said there, and your last thing you said is about be consistent. Be consistent.
Yeah, sometimes we can go up and down, right? We can get all excited about something and we're all into it. And then, oh, okay, well, that didn't work out so good. And so then we're back. And then we get a new thing that we get all excited about. So life can become these highs and lows. And I liken it to physical health. You know, gaining and losing weight is actually more unhealthy than just staying consistent. And maybe if you're trying to lose weight, lose a little at a time. You don't need to lose 10 pounds this week. Right? Just be consistent. Little by little, you'll get where you want to go. The highs and the lows may be difficult for your family to manage, especially when it comes to church things. Right? If we get all excited about the Lord and we're going to pray and we're going to read our Bibles more than we ever have, and it lasts for 2 weeks, right? And then we're back to normal. Well, forget all that. You know, we don't have time for that. And the highs and the lows can bring more confusion, but consistency brings security. And I think that's maybe one of our greatest needs in family life. Wives need to feel like husbands will bring security. Right. And kids need to feel that dad brings security. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to have all the stuff, doesn't have to have all the answers, but he's there and he's consistent and we feel secure in who we are. I'm thinking maybe our culture is in a crisis because of a lack of security. But this isn't something that government can bring. No. This isn't something a job can give. Money doesn't provide this. This is something that fathers bring. And when fathers bring that security, families flourish.
Wow. That is brilliant. Now, there's something in our room, though, we have a lot of stories and there's a lot of mix of families. And I mean, that's today. Like, we live in a world today that there's a lot of blended families. There's, you know, like all the different stories that are here. And going through sometimes when we talk about Father's Day, sometimes it's like, you know, we got this over here and we got this over there, and there's can be some very strong animosity, some very strong words that are spoken, and you know, mom talks bad and daddy talks bad, and there's all these kind of collisions of, you know, what started as love is now, you know, built into a lot of harsh words. How do we deal with that, Case?
Broken relationships are hard, aren't they? And divorce is hard, it's never over. And so sometimes on Father's Day, there's a lot of regrets. I would just remind you, Dad, your story's not over. And your child's story is not over. Maybe not
you're not together right now. Maybe you can't be as close as you want to be right now. Maybe you can't do some of the things you would like to do right now. But don't let regret control your life, because your story is still being written. Maybe your child is 20 years old before you really begin to connect, or 30, or maybe when they become a parent, you really begin to connect. So be ready for the future. Don't sacrifice your future on the regrets of your past, right? Be ready for when God brings you back together. Be ready for that next chapter when you can have that relationship you always wanted. You can't fix yesterday, but you can be prepared for a blessed tomorrow. And your story's not over. God is still writing it, and we see blessing in your future for your family.
Well, I pray that the word you've heard will encourage, empower, and help you move forward with God. And that's what we're believing for in every broadcast. So make sure and tune in and stay connected with us. You can always hear this message and others at caseytreat.com and at our Christian Faith Center church app. And we love to bring the word and bring the message that matters, not just religious, not just entertaining, but really matters in terms of our walk with the Lord. And that will always be my heart, to help you take that next step, to help you get stronger in God, to help you move forward in your walk with Him. So stay connected with us, caseytreat.com. Be with us on our next broadcast, and we're going to keep praying for you. Can a Christian have tattoos?
Well, I don't know, Casey. That question is beyond everything.
Yeah, right.
Because there's so much conflict. It's so funny. If you're in this part of the globe, if you're in this part of the globe, I mean, it's a great question.
Doesn't it come down to if you're young or if you're old?
Yeah.
I think if you're
But maybe
old, you can't do a tattoo.
Hey, before I go, make sure and send me your question. Love to hear it and love to get an answer back to you.